The city of New York had some words for Cleveland. Now Mike Polk Jr. fires back. What's new starts right now.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
Well, hello there, Northeast Ohio. Thank you so much for choosing What's New on this warm, steamy Tuesday afternoon. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Sara Shookman. Jay has the week off. Thank you for hanging out with us again.
Well, thanks for having me. It is hot out there.
Dare I say it feels tropical. It definitely does. And we actually are going to be starting first at 5 with Tropical Storm Elsa that continues to stalk the west coast of Florida. It's shadowing the shoreline and it's gaining strength. Just in, what's new with the storm? The National Hurricane Center just issued its latest advisory saying that the storm is expected to become a hurricane overnight tonight. But the system is already causing some major problems. Jay Gray has details from Clearwater Beach this evening.
Elsa's first swipe at Florida comes in the Keys.
A lot of rain, a lot of wind, shut us down for work.
On the move, the winds now intensifying to near hurricane strength. But it's the growing surf and driving rain that could do the most damage.
This is going to be a water event. There is going to be flooding. There is going to be storm surge. And that's what gives us the greatest concern.
Concern that, like the forecast path, stretches along the entire west coast of the state. Residents in the potential strike zone lining up for sandbags in a late race to get ready. Tampa International Airport suspending all operations at 5 this evening. The Rays postponing tonight's game against the Indians at Tropicana Field. And while search and recovery work does continue at the site of that tragic collapse in Surfside, crews are being forced to adjust to the changing conditions.
The wind is hampering the large cranes moving very heavy debris. That's a challenge that they're attempting to work around right now.
As the system churns in the warm waters of the Gulf, Elsa's intensity is not the only thing that worries those in its path.
The timing is a little scary because it's early. It's just the beginning of July. It's only 1 month into hurricane season.
A season many forecasters warn will be long and very active. Jay Gray, NBC News, Clearwater Beach.
Thank you, Jay. And you may remember that ahead of the deteriorating weather conditions in Florida Sunday night, demolition crews brought down the rest of the Champlain Towers in Surfside, Florida. Well, we're getting a new look at what some local members are doing on the grounds at the collapse site. Ohio Task Force 1 says it has about 80 members working around the clock in Surfside, but obviously the weather is not making any of those efforts any easier. They all plan to remain on site with no return date in place as of yet. Coming up at 6, we'll hear from one of those members on the team in Florida.
Well, back at home tonight, the Ohio Supreme Court will not hear an appeal to reinstate the Cleveland policeman who shot and killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice. The court today declined to hear Timothy Loehmann's appeal with no comment on that ruling. The Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association wanted to reverse lower court rulings which upheld Loehmann's firing, not for shooting Tamir Rice 7 years ago, but for lying on Loehmann's initial job application with the city. Tamir's mother, Samaria Rice, filed court papers in the case urging the Supreme Court to deny the appeal, as they did. Today's decision effectively ends Loehmann's bid to rejoin the department. Well, a teen has died in another drowning incident, this time at Villa Angela Beach in Euclid. Cleveland fire divers pulled 13-year-old Omarion Baker from the water last night. This is the latest drowning this summer, putting swimming and water safety top of mind for so many. But learning to swim is an area where race and class intersect. Communities of color are most at risk, never learning how to swim. The Cleveland YMCA wants to make sure these children have the skills to stay safe in the water. January Keaton explains the efforts.
Yeah, there's no time like the present to learn how to swim, right? I mean, it's something that could save your life. It could save the life of someone else that you might need to save. Now, I know how to swim, but growing up in a primarily black community, I can't think of one friend I had who also knew how to swim. And that's not uncommon in communities of color. As the weather continues to heat up in Cleveland and families head to pools and waterways to cool off, the Cleveland YMCA wants to close the gap among the races and ensure that more children of color know how to swim. Earlier this year, the YMCA of Greater Cleveland received a $10,000 grant from USA Swimming Foundation to provide free and reduced-cost swimming lessons to children of color in the community.
There is a huge disproportion when it comes to death by drowning in communities of color.
According to USA Swimming, 40% of white children and 45% of Latino children have little to no swimming ability. But black children, at 64%, is the group with the least ability to swim. The YMCA teaches all ages and swim levels, and Hearn says if money is the problem, the YMCA will help you out. Now, if you want to learn more about the free and low-cost swim lessons the YMCA of Cleveland is offering, go to our website, WKYC.com.
Thank you, January. Well, now at 5, the newest law in the state of Ohio. Today, Governor Mike DeWine signed an anti-hazing bill into law. Collin's law does a variety of things. It increases the penalty of hazing to a second-degree misdemeanor. It was a fourth-degree misdemeanor. Hazing that results in serious harm is now a third-degree felony. Now, it also expands the definition of hazing, and it requires staff and volunteers at colleges to undergo training on hazing awareness and prevention. The law is named after Collin, who died in a hazing incident at Ohio University in 2018.
So did Ohio's Vaccimillion lottery really increase Ohio's vaccination rate? A new study says no. Researchers from the Boston University of Medicine compared vaccination rates in Ohio with several states without lottery incentives. They found that a few weeks after the lottery was launched in Ohio, Ohio did see an increase in documented vaccination rates. However, researchers found that this spike in vaccination rates was consistent across the U.S. Researchers believe that widening the eligibility of the vaccine at the same time, including younger teens, that was likely responsible, not the incentives. Governor Mike DeWine did call the lottery a success at the end of the program, though. We reached out to the governor's office today to see what they thought of that study, but we're still waiting to hear back. As of today, about 45% of Ohioans are fully vaccinated.
Well, the Cleveland Browns have something up their sleeve. The team posted 2 tweets yesterday afternoon. Both feature the silhouette of a player that's accompanied by the date July 24th, 2021. Now, that date is coming up so quickly. Now, if you take a close look at the image, the player's silhouette is wearing number 75. Now, that's Joel Bitonio. So what's the big secret? Well, the Browns haven't revealed that just yet. We did ask our followers on 3 What's New Facebook page, and some think it's new uniforms, maybe new helmets. Our Stephanie Haney is hoping it means that the Browns will play in the 2022 Pro Football Hall of Fame game. Anytime they post cryptic tweets, it causes a firestorm. But to have Joel Bitonio on there, you know, you kind of wonder why they single him out. I have no clue.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it seems like a uniform thing could be coming, although, I mean, they make so many changes with that. I can barely keep up with what color orange, and I didn't know. I just happened to have this on today.
Well done. Well played, I'm sure. But, you know, with the uniform thing, there's not just one uniform either. They have like 5 uniforms, it seems. It's like they have a whole closet full of uniforms.
Right, the special ones they pull out for the big game days. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Stephanie's onto something with the Hall of Fame game.
That would be just fine by Browns fans near and far.
We could have a very good showing in Canton, don't you think?
We could make something fun happen.
Yeah, that would be good. So I guess we'll be waiting a few more weeks to find out for sure.
We definitely will.
Well, next on What's New, we have all had the scam calls sent to our phones, but we are just learning how much money people have lost because of them. That's next.
And then new details on Britney Spears. Her longtime manager resigns. We'll tell you what that means for the singer and if it impacts her conservatorship. That's coming up in Pop Break. In the meantime, we also have plenty to talk about as far as the forecast goes. Matt, we mentioned Tropical Storm Elsa intensifying in the Gulf. Meanwhile, it feels hot and sticky here Are we looking at any pop-up storm chances around?
Yeah, you mentioned the tropical storm. We're going to have tropical downpours of our own tomorrow around here, Betsy. Pretty widespread coverage of storms. A lot of us need the rainfall. Live look at CSU cam right now. We do have some darker clouds along the lake breeze, even some downpours out east. Your outdoor dining forecast, it's a muggy one. You know that. Extra napkins just to pat that sweat off your forehead. We'll be back with a look at Elsa and how she impacts us over the next 7 days. Coming up.
Well, welcome back to What's New on this Tech Tuesday. Let's get to 3 things everybody needs to know about the tech world today. First, Americans lost nearly $30 billion to phone scams last year. That's according to a new report from Truecaller, finding nearly 60 million Americans lost money over the phone by scammers. And nearly 20% of those people lost money more than once, falling victim 2 or more times. The average reported loss was just about $500 per person.
And I bet there's more unreported, too. Next, keeping up with security, cybersecurity company NortonLifeLock's research team says it had a 63% increase in devices infected with stalkerware. 60% of people 18 to 39 engaged in some form of online stalking behavior with an ex or even a current partner. And 2 in 5 of those younger Americans think their partner is at least somewhat likely to install such an app. These are the kind of things that monitor your partner's activity, like text messages, phone calls, direct messages, emails, and photos.
While overseas, Japan's supercomputer Fugaku estimates that COVID infection risks in Tokyo at the National Stadium are low. That's where the main venue is for the Olympics and the Paralympics. Now, that computer made calculations based on the scenario that 10 out of the 10,000 spectators are infected with the virus. The computer found infection risks are close to 0 if everybody wears a mask. and there's space between the spectators, and the wind is blowing from behind them, which is actually in line with the stadium's design. Now, even if the wind blows from the front, the infection risk ratio came to less than 1 person out of 10,000. They have continued to say that they are doing everything they can to make it as safe as possible. And yet again, it seems like masks are the shining star of getting us through the rest of this pandemic.
Right. I mean, when you look at Japan, they are not anywhere near where we are with vaccinations. So masks are super important there. And they're still kind of figuring out how exactly, how many people. They were at 50%. But again, these are all local Japanese, nobody able to travel in, you know, to attend the Olympics and things like that, all in an effort to contain any real spread. So I'm sure these models, they're really relying on things like this to figure out just what they're up against.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, you know, everybody still has to make their own best decisions for themselves. A lot of people want to go and see all of the festivities. You just have to do it with a mask and make sure you stay socially distanced. Hey, we've been doing that for a long time already. So
yes, we have.
Par for the course. More of the same coming their way. Tell you what, as far as this weather goes, Matt, man, we're sitting in summertime. It definitely feels a little soupy out there. We're talking about the tropics too, but it doesn't look like we are kind of going to be facing any hurricanes or tropical storms. But that
let's hope not.
Doesn't mean we don't get any storms.
That was 2020. We dealt with everything in 2020, right? Latest snow, all that. Yeah, we are on to new things. We're not going to deal with any unpleasant weather around here unless you don't like the stickiness, and we certainly do have that. Made it in the low 90s at most major hubs this afternoon. We'll have those official numbers. Weather Service releases those around the 5:30 hour, so I'll have those for you. But definitely a hot day across Northeast Ohio. Had a couple lake breeze showers and even a rumble of thunder. I have a lightning detector at home and said, about 20 miles from me out towards the east, they did have a lightning strike. Our model picking up on that too. But you can see this little band that we have. Everyone else is dry. It's hot. It's steamy. It's hazy, right? But we had a little lake breeze that settled in. The clouds are building across eastern Cuyahoga County. Those clouds eventually tower up enough to produce some rain. And we have had just a few downpours. Mesopotamia there out towards the Kinsman area, right along the Ashtabula-Trumbull County border. Saw a downpour. May see a couple more. You can see if we put the winds on there, how they're kind of converging. That convergence, winds can't go down to the ground, right? That air can't. It has to come together and rise, and that's exactly what we have going on out towards the east. That'll last until right around sunset, and then eventually we'll lose all that. Bigger picture, though, we've got a pretty rainy scene across the area tomorrow as moisture kind of converges over Northeast Ohio. We've got a frontal boundary. It's taken its time moving in. This will sink south at the same time. We've got a deep push of tropical moisture coming in. Everything comes together. It goes up, right? So we're expecting storms to develop across Northeast Ohio pretty much area-wide by tomorrow afternoon, and then especially on the evening. Underneath this front, though, we've got hot conditions. We've been dealing with that all 4th of July weekend. Down to the south, though, that's where all the activity is right now. Deep tropical moisture all across the I-10 corridor along the Gulf Coast. Here is Elsa. Tropical storm, as Betsy mentioned, top of the show, expected to become a hurricane overnight tonight. This is really an east side storm. The center of low pressure right here. There's really nothing going on the western side. So all of the rain happens to be right over Florida right now. They've had not just gusty winds, but as you heard in that story, this is a water problem. You get the storm surge, so that wind brings that water up, especially some of these inlets and up towards Tampa. They're keeping an eye on that as well. But as we show the water vapor on here, there's been a little wind shear off towards the north, also dry air that has not gotten wrapped into the system. So it's kind of managed to maintain itself over the last 24 hours, and that's what we continue to see. So latest numbers now, this is as of 5 o'clock. This is what's new with Elsa, 70-mile-per-hour winds right now sustained. It is moving north around 10, so these are always slow movers. You can see as we go through time, expected to surpass that hurricane status as we get into tonight, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then eventually it's up the east coast. When do we deal with it? Well, we won't directly, but things always wait for tropical systems to head out of the way. Basically, whenever you have a tropical storm or hurricane hanging up the east coast, it says stop to the weather pattern off towards the west. So that's why we have rain chances tomorrow, which would normally clear, but no, we're going to keep them in the forecast Thursday and Friday as well. Look at temperatures now. I mean, this is very July, like right 94 right now, Akron, 90 Dover. You factor in the thick humidity that we have. Dew points are back up into the 60s and 70s once again. You marry those two numbers together, this is what it feels like outside. Generally low and mid 90s. So hydration, all that stuff. You know the rules, but you got to abide by them, right? National Design Mart Hour by our forecast. Let's time out the rain tomorrow. We're dry tonight outside of a stray thunderstorm out east. We'll be back into the 70s tonight. Tomorrow, if you have morning plans, you're fine. Midday plans, keep an eye on the radar, but we should be okay. Watch what happens in the afternoon, though. Boom, showers and thunderstorms, heavy rain, gusty winds, maybe some hail with some of these tomorrow. We'll have to keep an eye on it. That will eventually start to calm down tomorrow night. We'll do it all over again on Thursday. And then finally, remember, Elsa heads up the East Coast. Everything can move again. There we go. We get our little dip with more comfortable air moving in here by the time we get to the middle and latter half of the week. Union Home Mortgage 7-day forecast looks like this. Hot day tomorrow outside of those storms, so it'll heat up quick. Storms will hit, and then it'll just be muggy outside. And then we bring in some cooler air by Friday. We're going to keep us mainly dry on Friday outside of some storms Thursday and early Friday. But then the weekend, we're back to some pops, especially Sunday. But you notice what's missing? Soaring heat. We're not going to have it, it looks like, after tomorrow. So things looking good. Betsy.
A little bit of summery everything in there.
It is. Temperatures tempered just a little bit.
Tempered. I like that.
Thanks so much, Matt. Next for us here on What's New, a first look at Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton's private wedding. I can't wait to see these pictures. It's all from their special day, and it's coming up in Pop Break.
And a new world record for the tallest sandcastle. We'll tell you how tall it is and the previous record height coming up in Worth the Watch.
Well, we have new pictures from Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton's wedding, plus new details about Britney Spears' conservatorship, and Mariska Hargitay is injured. Here's Kara Cotton with today's Pop Break.
We have the latest on Britney Spears' conservatorship. Her longtime manager Larry Rudolph has resigned. In a letter to Spears' co-conservators Jamie Spears and Jody Montgomery, Rudolph said the decision was in Britney's best interest after learning that she plans to retire and his services would no longer be needed. Rudolph, who's managed Britney since the mid-1990s, says he hasn't spoken with the singer in more than 2 years. He closed the resignation letter saying, "I wish Britney all the health and happiness in the world." Mariska Hargitay seems to be having a hard time staying on her feet, literally. Just 6 weeks after revealing that she suffered a broken knee, a hairline fracture in her ankle, and a torn ligament, the Law & Order SVU star is back with another injury. In a picture posted to social media, the 57-year-old shows off her new summer look featuring a tightly wrapped broken ankle. According to reports, Hargitay injured herself at the screening of Black Widow in the Hamptons on Friday. We're wishing her a speedy recovery. And congratulations are still in order for Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani. As we told you yesterday, the two tied the knot in an intimate at-home ceremony at Shelton's ranch in Oklahoma on Saturday. Today, we have a first look at their big day. Shelton, dressed in classic blue jeans, a white shirt, and a black vest, said I do to his bride, who wore a custom Vera Wang gown with a stunning veil that had their children's names embroidered on it. And of course, she couldn't forget her signature bold red lipstick. The two, who have been dating since 2015 and got engaged in 2020, had their ceremony officiated by good friend Carson Daly. We're wishing love and happiness on their union.
There was so much detail that went into this wedding, from the dress change to her high-heeled cowboy boots and even their children's names on the veil. Now, you both are married. I am not. Is there a special moment or detail from your wedding that sticks out to you?
Oh, my sister had a 2-week-old baby, and she was a baby bridesmaid. She had a little tiny matching bridesmaid's dress and everything. She didn't make it down the aisle. We had an incident, but it was so cute. She was just this little tiny baby in a bridesmaid's dress.
Love that.
Was
Love
sweet.
that. Sarah?
Yeah, I got to hear more about that story, the incident. You know, we somewhere along the line figured out that between our parents and grandparents, we had 250 years of marriage. So we did a little family tree with wedding photos from each of their wedding days just on the wall. And I just loved seeing those all there.
That is so cool. And you know, the chapel that they got married at, Blake had that built for this wedding. And I thought it was going to be like some little, like, you know, a little trellis or something. It was like a full-on, like, chapel.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was quite picture perfect, I'd say.
Awesome.
Yeah, congrats to them.
For sure.
So exciting.
Thank you, Kara.
Yeah. Well, let's get to our Worth the Watch now. It is a perfect story for any beach day, except this massive sandcastle isn't even on a beach. This 69-foot sandcastle was unveiled at the Blokhus Sand Sculpture Festival in Denmark, marking a new world record for the world's tallest sandcastle, beating the old one by 11 feet. The artist says the coronavirus pandemic inspired this sculpture, topping it with a crown to represent how COVID-19 is ruling our world right now. Over 9,000 pounds of sand. Look at all the support they need for that, used to create this, Betsy.
There's got to be some glue involved somewhere. In my extensive construction of sandcastle past, everyone has failed within moments. So I would have to say that they cheated and had to use glue.
When you look at the little people and things, you know, I'm picturing like you fill it up with sand and you flip it over, and then when you wiggle this off the top, it doesn't look like what it's supposed to. They have some trick for that too, I'm sure.
Some way of smoothing out all those rough edges, certainly. Boy, wouldn't it be fun to like randomly show up at a beach somewhere and throw a sandcastle up like that? Sit back like, it's just another
Watch
day.
this.
It'd be amazing. Well, coming up for us, everybody, the space race. A look ahead to who is launching to space with the first mission that's happening this weekend. Brandon Simmons explains.
Plus, if you are looking for a new home, get ready to pay up and be patient. We'll tell you the going rate for homes in Cuyahoga County.
Then the battle between the Big Apple and the CLE. What is up with New York City throwing shade at us? Mike Polk Jr. shares his thoughts on a fiery social media debate. It's going back and forth between the two cities. Stay tuned for that. We'll be right back.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
We begin this half hour with 3 things you need to know. Today, Governor Mike DeWine signed an anti-hazing bill into law. Collin's Law does a variety of things. It increases the penalty of hazing to a 2nd-degree misdemeanor. Now, that was a 4th-degree misdemeanor. Hazing that results in serious harm is now a 3rd-degree felony, and it expands the definition of hazing. It also requires staff and volunteers at colleges to undergo training on hazing awareness and prevention. The law is named after Collin, who died in a hazing incident at Ohio University in 2018.
Well, no appeal for Timothy Loehmann. The Ohio Supreme Court will not hear the case to reinstate the Cleveland policeman who shot and killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Tamir's mother, Samaria Rice, filed court papers in the case, urging the Ohio Supreme Court to deny the appeal. The Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association wanted to reverse lower court rulings which upheld Loehmann's firing, not for shooting Tamir Rice 7 years ago, but for lying on his initial job application with the city. This effectively ends Loehmann's quest to be reinstated.
And Tropical Storm Elsa is moving northward just offshore of the west coast of Florida, but the entire Sunshine State is going to be impacted by the storm. Our meteorologist at our sister station in Jacksonville on the east side of the state, Lauren Rautenkrantz, has an update.
It's not so sunny right now. We are tracking Elsa. The weather team's been working around the clock to fine-tune those impacts for our viewers across northeast Florida and southeast Georgia. Now, basically, we're expecting a wet and windy Wednesday, but we're going to be on that front right quadrant. So that means we could have heavy rain, also some gusty conditions of tropical storm force, and also isolated tornadoes. Now, for us here in Jacksonville, we've had 2 to 4 times the amount of rain we should have seen in the last 2 weeks. Grounds are really saturated, so any amount of wind that we have could help to topple over some trees, resulting in tree damage and then power outages, etc. We're hoping we can just wave goodbye to Elsa and get it on out of here with just maybe a couple of rain, showers, and storms. But for now, I gotta get back into the Weather Center.
Thank you so much, Lauren. You know, Jacksonville in the northeast corner of the state, a lot of people think, you know, it's more southern Georgia than anything, but they get really bad flooding there, very bad street flooding and local flooding. And so anytime you add tropical storm kind of conditions on top of already saturated ground, they are expecting some pretty nasty flooding conditions. So.
Yeah, and the Indians are in Tampa Bay, as we talked about. Even though they play in a dome, you were saying, you know, the team's got to cancel the game because of these warnings.
Yeah, they just kind of put everybody on lockdown, and it's a safety feature for sure. Not very happy. Tito is not exactly very happy about that, but they'll get through it. They're going to play a doubleheader tomorrow. We'll have more details on that coming up at 6 on What Matters Most. With all of that, we welcome you back, though, to What's New. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Sara Shookman as Jay is off this week.
Yes, and there's so much going on. Not tropical storms here, but there's a lot of news to get to.
There definitely is. Our top talker is where we begin, and today we're talking about the race to space. 2 billionaires will launch their way to orbit over the next couple of weeks, and today we get a look at what it took for them to get here. Brandon Simmons has more on the first mission that's set to take place coming up on Sunday. Brandon?
Yeah, Sunday is a big day, and I'll tell you one thing that it takes. You have to have some deep pockets to set up a mission like this one. Sir Richard Branson and his company Virgin Galactic will head to the edge of space in a spaceship like nothing we've ever seen before. Development of Virgin Galactic spaceship is the result of nearly 2 decades of hard work. Back in 2014, a test pilot was actually killed in an accident, but after many redesigns and safety delays, the ship is ready to launch with 70-year-old Branson on board. Now, he's been training for this mission and is more excited than anyone that's involved, and he'll be launching just 9 days before Amazon's billionaire founder Jeff Bezos launches into space with his company Blue Origin on July 20th. Now, it's not really a race or competition. In fact, Branson is excited to see more companies bringing space travel to the masses.
Why shouldn't we, as a human race, be able to go into space and marvel at the world and have the experience of a lifetime? And that's only happened to 500 people, roughly, since space travel started.
Now, these companies hope to provide that opportunity to hundreds of other people coming up soon, and this first flight will include other Virgin Galactic employees. But some big names have already signed up for future flights, including Tom Hanks, Justin Bieber, and Lady Gaga. Now, in case you're wondering, how much would it cost for you, Betsy, to get on a flight like this one, head off into space? Some of those that I just mentioned paid as much as $250,000. Pretty big number there.
That's big. And I got to tell you, I was a little surprised to hear Tom Hanks wants to do that because, of course, he was in Apollo 13, the movie, which, of course, was a little bit of a survival mode after disaster. But
right.
Don't you think that that's going to be running through his head as he gets up there? I'm sure they're going to follow that storyline.
Yeah, they'd have to. I mean, maybe that's what kind of drew him to it. Want to see what the real thing is like since you've done it in a movie. So we'll have to see how it goes. I think it'll be interesting. Especially even Justin Bieber too. All of those really surprised me. I mean, guess you just if you got that kind of money, then it's something you do. All
right. Well, the price is not reasonable for most people, but is it expected to actually become more affordable, quote, anytime soon?
Well, here's the thing. Branson said he would actually expect for the price to go up before it comes back down. And obviously that is due to demand because a lot of people are interested, people who have those kind of deep pockets. But hopefully once we get through all of them and the technology gets better, it will get cheaper and more people will have a chance to get into space.
Well, $250,000, college for my kids or a chance to go into space for 10 minutes. That's a big toss up for me. All right, Brandon,
space.
Thanks so much. Yeah, right.
Well, perhaps if you aren't in the market, you have heard real estate is hot right now. Many Americans are being priced out of their dream homes. The National Association of Realtors reported the median sales price for a house is now more than $350,000. And homes are selling fast, on average 17 days. The competition is forcing buyers to slim their wish list and prepare for a battle to close a deal. If you're in the market or will be soon, here's what you need to do before starting your search to give you a better edge.
You want to make sure that you are prepared for the housing market. So know your must-haves and your nice-to-haves so you can hone in on the home that is right for you really quickly. You want to make sure you have your finances in order so that you can act quickly to put the offer in and you'll already have your pre-approval ready to go.
And Mark Vitardi with the Akron-Cleveland Association of Realtors told us that the median price for a single-family home here in Cuyahoga County is now $142,000, much cheaper than the average, but a lot more than last year. That was only $129,000. So the cost of buying and also renting also up here in Cleveland, Betsy.
And with the supply-demand issues going on with lumber and building products, it's not exactly like you can, score the cheap house and flip it. And save a little money that way. You're going to be investing more. So there's a lot of planning that's going in.
There's so much demand for renovations right now, too. If you can get with a contractor, you're waiting on a lot of those supplies to come in or you're paying extra for them. But everybody spent so much time at home. I think they've all found projects that they want to do.
And don't cut corners. Make sure you get permits. Do it the right way. And if you're buying a house that has been flipped, make sure you check the permits. Ooh. That's a very big deal.
There you go.
Coming up, you may have seen the tweet from New York City about Cleveland. Yeah, the Big Apple was taking a jab at our city on social media. We don't play. Mike Polk doesn't play either. He has some thoughts about all of that. He'll explain.
And a local police department is asking residents to stop with the fireworks already. We'll show you how they're going about it with this request on Facebook. And Matt, what's going on outside? No booms at the moment, right?
Well, I'll tell you, not at all. Good time three's looking good, though. I would take that any day over New York City, right?
Yep.
Sunny day in Cleveland. Come on. This is the best time of the year downtown, actually all across the area. Jumping in the lakes, mowing the lawns, doing all sorts of stuff like that. Speaking of lawn, we could use the rainfall around here. I had the sprinkler out today, and none of the water pooled whatsoever. It all got in the soil. Number at the bottom is what you're looking at. We need anywhere from 3 to almost 6 inches of rain to get up to average. Do we get it in the forecast? We'll take you over the next 7 days coming up.
All right, Matt, today is July 6th, and we are sitting in our second 90-degree day of the month so far. I mean, we're only 6 days in. I'm assuming we'll have some more.
Probably some more. We averaged 2 by the end of June, so we average about 3 by now. So we're right on par for the course. Last couple of years, we've had quite a few 90-degree days. I think they have a hairdryer on over the thermometer site over there. Sometimes it's a degree or two cooler at my house. But regardless, we've had another hot day across Northeast Ohio today. We have the steam as well with the humidity. Hasn't sparked any storms, though. No reason really for the air to lift, right? That's one of the components you need. But there's a reason for it to lift tomorrow. We've got a real good shot at showers and thunderstorms area-wide tomorrow. Here's the official high temperatures today. 92, the winner is Mansfield. Cleveland checking in 91, ditto that New Philadelphia. You see 90 at Akron, 88 out in Ashtabula. Had the lake breeze move through a little earlier today, so Ashtabula a little bit cooler than everyone else. Temperatures still hot outside this evening. Peak temperatures usually around 3, 4, 5 o'clock, depending on the day this time of year. But you can see we're still up near 90 degrees for many of you. That number really doesn't mean anything, though. You factor in this number, which is the dew point. We've got that muggy feel outside. You put those two together. This is the number that matters. We're feeling more like the mid-90s outside. You get in the sunshine, you add another 10, 15 degrees. So over 100, right, if you're in the sun. That's why it always feels much warmer. Warmest days of the year are right now. Yesterday through July 28th, we have our highest average high temperatures of the year. You often think dog days of summer, that's late July, early August. Yeah, it still gets hot around there, but climatologically speaking, our highest averages are now through the end of the month. So, yeah, I mean, you'd expect that, right? July being one of the hotter months of the year. Isolated lake breeze downpours, we've had them. They're not really that well organized, not really seeing much organization, but you notice the line of clouds. If you're driving 90, 271, you see those clouds you're driving through. That's a wind coming off the lake converging with wind from the south. Bigger picture, though, they've had a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity off towards the north. This will sink towards us. At the same time, we've got deep tropical moisture coming in. We've got the heat in place. That will spark a real good chance of showers and thunderstorms, not just tomorrow, but the next couple days as well. There's Elsa down in the Gulf Coast. Thinking golf on my mind. Gulf Coast. Gulf Course would be a nice place to be as well, not with Elsa, as that continues to track towards the north. Latest numbers here, 70-mile-per-hour sustained winds heading off towards the north. Center circulation's here. Most of the convection is off on the eastern side of this, so that does bring the rain into Florida. The worst of the storm is hitting that west coast of Florida. Track takes it north through southern Georgia, up the eastern seaboard, away from us. But again, everything gets put on hold as we wait for a tropical system to go by. So our weather pattern, what we have tomorrow, is going to be with us next couple days. National Design Mart hour by our forecast. We start dry tomorrow by afternoon. Boom, there you go. Showers and thunderstorms. Lots of heavy rain possible with these. In terms of how much rain we're expecting, we could get some good downpours tomorrow. And as I mentioned earlier, we need it. We could use several inches of rain. Not all at once, but we could use a good soaking. Union Home Mortgage 7-day forecast. We bring in cooler air behind this. In fact, 70s for highs on Friday, an isolated storm. Then we're talking more rain chances on through the weekend and especially next week. Guys.
Thanks, Matt. Well, Cleveland has been trending on social media these last few days, and it's all thanks to a not-so-nice tweet posted Friday night by the official New York City account. It read, as you see here, "A gloomy day in New York City is still better than a sunny day in Cleveland." Ugh, it's hard to even read. Well, as you can imagine, that got quite a few Clevelanders fired up, including our very own Mike Polk Jr. So here's his take on the battle between the Big Apple and the CLE.
The most remarkable thing about New York's recent unprovoked broadside against Cleveland, to me, was its source. This isn't from a disgruntled Yankee fan or a random social media troll. This is from the official Twitter account of the city of New York itself, which makes the assault even tackier than modern-day Times Square. The responses from offended Clevelanders were as consistent as they were accurate, with many people noting the mild discrepancy in the cost of living between our two towns, the advantages of the personal space we enjoy, and the fact that the entirety of our city doesn't smell like a public porta-john after the third day of Woodstock '99. Now, I love New York. It's an amazing, eclectic place, and it's one of the world's greatest cities. It also happens to be supremely inconvenient, and for many of us, the very idea of living there is the stuff of nightmares. It's packed, it's dirty, it's comically expensive. Everything you have to accomplish there takes an hour longer, and let's not even get started on the grifting, raggedy mascot infestation. But that's the devil's bargain that people make when they move to New York. But the flaw with that model is that it's entirely dependent upon people simply accepting the concept that all the hassles of living there are worth it. Because without that mystique, living in New York is fundamentally illogical. And it seems like people are starting to figure that out. Remote work has changed the way we do business, and many folks were already migrating from major cities even prior to the pandemic. Then COVID hit, causing an even larger exodus. I myself had friends move back to Cleveland. You may have as well. And who can blame them? What's worse than living through a scary worldwide pandemic? Living through one while paying $4,000 a month to cower in a one-bedroom efficiency surrounded by 8 million potentially infected carriers. It was a wake-up call for many. And now New York seems a little shook. And I think that's why they came at us, Cleveland. They feel threatened. Not by our city itself, but by the concept of New Yorkers realizing that they can be just as happy and fulfilled not living in New York. Perhaps even more so. And that's why, rather than taking offense to that tweet, I took it as a compliment. A confirmation that they actually do see the value of living in places like our town and feel compelled to make sure that others don't see it. If there's one thing that Clevelanders have a knack for spotting, it's insecurity. And this tweet reeks of it. I'm personally happy that I'm at a point in life where I can honestly say that I don't care whether people in New York like Cleveland or not, or whether they think it's cool or acceptable to live here. It don't make no never mind to me. So, move here if you like, New Yorkers. I certainly wouldn't blame you. The living conditions under which you currently exist are beyond nightmarish to me. But that's just my personal taste, and if it works for you, by all means, stay there. After all, the last thing we need is for our city to become overcrowded and expensive, because who in God's name would want to live that way? This is Mike, happily slumming it for life in the CLE for 3 News.
Slumming it for life and with a few bucks in your pocket at that. You know, I saw that tweet and I immediately hit, quote reply. I was like fired up. And then I was like, I'm just going to see how this one plays out. And it's one thing to come at Cleveland when you are a Clevelander. But it is a whole nother level when people from outside of Cleveland come at Cleveland. It's like we just all turn and attack. Mm-hmm. And it has been phenomenal to see the replies that folks have been saying to that tweet.
I know. I love the creativity and the way that people have replied. I, too, kind of hung back just to see what people were going to say. And they were much more brilliant than anything I would have come up with. But, yeah, I feel like this goes back to that whole idea that Cleveland isn't a cool place without any actual facts, you know?
What do you think, Mikey?
Hey, guys, I totally agree. And as you can see, the city looks beautiful. I don't care what anybody says. And I really, again, don't really care if anybody else decides to move here. I will point out that they say, the city of New York says, that that was a response to the Ohio tourism and trying to get people to move here campaign that they've had kicking for a little bit now up in New York City, trying to inspire people to move down here. I think that it obviously missed the mark, though, and obviously a lot of people were pretty upset.
Well, Mike, I got to ask you, are you at Upper Edgewater Park by chance? Are you on the bench or near the bench at the Cleveland Script sign?
I am down the street from it. There's too many people and it's too sticky down there. But isn't this park beautiful? Way better than Central Park. Look at all this space we've got. And there's nobody here juggling next to me. There's no Elmo trying to get me to take pictures with it. That's one of the things I love. The space, everyone. The space. The space and how affordable it is.
Stretch out. Yeah, and the weather. Let's not forget that. We have some pretty nice weather here. All right, Mike, thank you so much on that perspective. We always appreciate it from you. All right, more signs of normal for all of us, everybody. That is some good news that's still coming your way. A popular favorite on Broadway is making its return to Playhouse Square later this year. Stephanie Haney tells us what show is flying back into town, coming up and clicking in Cleveland.
And you don't have to give up Broadway to be here either. And what's behind this curtain? We'll show you the cute surprise in Show Us Something Good.
Well, it's time now to see what is clicking in Cleveland. And for that, of course, we bring in our digital anchor, Stephanie Haney. Stephanie, howdy. What's clicking on this Tuesday?
Hi, Betsy. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to everybody at home. Okay, this first one is for all of my fellow fireworks lovers at home. The North Ridgeville Police Department posted on Facebook on Monday saying, it's time to chill. And nowhere in their research did they see references to fireworks on July 5th or 6th or a random Tuesday. The department says if you've got neighbors, let's all just be cool now and not set off fireworks at home because people have to work and have babies and pets and PTSD. So let's all be good neighbors and put away the fireworks until next year. So it pains me to say it, but they do have a point, and there are only 363 days until the next 4th of July. All right, Playhouse Square has just announced another show flying into town. It's the Broadway musical Wicked, inspired by The Wizard of Oz. It will be here starting December 8th. It's the story of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda, the Good Witch, in Oz long before Dorothy shows up. Tickets go on sale August 2nd. And last night's episode of The Bachelorette might as well have been called The Michael Allio Show. The Akron native got his 4th rose from Katie Thurston after sharing more about losing his wife to breast cancer with the men on a group date. But it started out rough for him, taking a tough hit for love during a game described as basketball meets rugby. That was pretty tough to see. After the rose ceremony, previews showed Michael getting emotional over being away from his 4-year-old son James while video chatting with him. Now, we know it's been tough to be away from his son. He's talked about that. And he also shared a really beautiful message about the importance of time and how little of it we have on this earth. Looks like it's getting time for some tough decisions for Michael.
I knew Michael and his wife Laura for a long time. They've both been excellent advocates for breast cancer and for cancer survivors and patients in the Akron area, working with stewards. It has been so great to watch him and just the messages that have come through because of him being on The Bachelorette.
It's bigger than just the rose ceremony.
It is, and he's the grown-up in the room for sure if you've been watching the show. Check the recaps on WKYC.com, you'll see it.
Yep. Thanks, Stephanie. Well, what is behind the curtain? An adorable surprise, and it's ahead in Show Us Something Good. Okay, what is the adorable surprise behind the curtain? Oh, there he is. It's River. Today's Show Us Something Good comes from the Wentz family. Matt's sons, River and Wyatt, playing peekaboo. Matt, tell us the story behind this. So cute.
Well, we were eating and I heard him laughing and I stepped back in. I mean, you see Wyatt there with his whole entire pair, but you know, it's interesting. They're playing more together. I think River has accepted that he's got a little brother versus, you know, rejecting him. And they were playing today. It was cute. I want to say hi to my family. They were so excited about being on TV. I said, you were for the last 14 months. What, did you forget? So they're actually watching. This is where Daddy goes when he leaves.
Well, the laugh is everything. Baby giggles are just a joy.
Right,
so thanks for sharing that.
For sure, absolutely.
Well, thank you all for watching What's New on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon.
And What Matters Most with Laura starts right now.
Swimming safety.
There is a huge disproportion when it comes to death by drowning in communities of color.
In the wake of another deadly swimming tragedy, January Keaton shows us a program that's helping teach local kids how to handle themselves safely in the water. Elsa arrives.
Here we go again. It's summertime. It's lifestyle almost in the summertime.
A tropical storm has South Florida on alert and ready for the first real scare of the Atlantic hurricane season. Upgrades inside. A long talked about renovation project at the Cuyahoga County Jail is one step closer to reality. But will all the work be worth the cost? Mark Namick takes a closer look. And out of this world, a local astronomer explains why this time of year is a hot spot of space activity in Northeast Ohio.
From the WKYC studios, this is What Matters Most.
Good evening to you, and thanks for being with us. I'm Laura Queso. Russ has a night off, and tonight, 2 deadly drowning incidents in the last 2 weeks. Last night, a 13-year-old boy disappeared in Lake Erie at Villa Angela Beach. O'Marion Baker's body was later found. Then last week, 3 members of a family died, including 2 kids, after they were trapped under the water at Wallace Lake in Berea. The recent drownings putting water safety top of mind for so many, but learning to swim is an area where race and class intersect, with communities of color most at risk when in the water. The local YMCA is stepping in to ensure that more children can stay safe in the water. Here's January Keaton.
Yeah, you guys, I knew how to swim growing up, but very few kids I knew growing up knew how to swim as well. And that's not uncommon in communities of color.
There is a huge disproportion when it comes to death by drowning in communities of color.
As the weather continues to heat up in Cleveland and families head to pools and waterways to cool off, Cleveland YMCA Aquatics Director Philip Hearn says the Y wants to make sure children of color can enjoy the water this summer safely. According to USA Swimming Foundation, which collects data about drowning based on socioeconomics, 40% of white children and 45% of Latino children have little to no swimming ability. But black children, at 64%, is the group with the least ability to swim. Hearn says the reason is layered.
When you start working and addressing specifically the fear of water, it's a multi-generational problem.
Meaning if grandma couldn't swim, then mom probably couldn't swim, and you probably can't swim either, and so on.
And then in a lot of cases, it's also just the cost of it.
Hearn says no other organization in Northeast Ohio except the YMCA offers financial assistance for swim lessons. Earlier this year, the Y applied for and received a $10,000 grant from the USA Swimming Foundation to provide free or reduced cost swim lessons to children of color in the community.
We have this great big giant body of water just north of us with Lake Erie. It's an inexpensive place to go and cool off, but if you don't know how to swim, and you don't know how to be water safe, it can be very dangerous and deadly.
Now, the YMCA teaches all ages, all swim levels, and Hearn says if money is the problem, give them a call. They will help you out financially. That's not a problem at all. Now, for more information on the YMCA's free and low-cost swim lessons, go to our website, WKYC.com. In Cleveland, January Keaton, 3 News.
The discovery of 8 more victims in the rubble of a collapsed Florida apartment building has raised the death toll to 36 tonight. The rescue efforts have been hampered by severe weather from Tropical Storm Elsa. Bands of rain are expected in Surfside as Elsa gains strength. The mayor of Miami-Dade County says 109 people remain unaccounted for, though only 70 of them are confirmed to have been in the building when it collapsed. She also says the investigation into what may have caused the collapse is ongoing. Meantime, local firefighters are still on the ground searching for victims today. Ohio Task Force 1 has about 80 members working around the clock in Surfside. Just a couple of hours ago, I spoke with one of the members on the ground there. I'm told the weather has not been cooperating. The team has been pulled off the rubble twice already today. He tells me between the heat, humidity, rain, and of course emotion, this has been a really difficult mission.
We're here to help families locate their missing loved ones, bring them some closure. So what that does is that gives them that drive.
After the second building came down over the weekend, the task force has had an easier time trying to locate missing people without the worry about the structure collapsing. They could be on the ground 14 days or longer. And coming up at 11 tonight, more from the team manager and what he says about the families on the scene and also the hardest part of the mission so far for our local crews. Speaking of Elsa, right now the tropical storm is moving north, bringing heavy rain and gusty winds to the lower and middle Florida Keys. Elsa will also bring isolated tornado threats to southwest Florida today and is expected to dump heavy rain along the coast there. Elsa is proving to be Florida's wake-up call to the new Atlantic hurricane season. NBC's Jay Gray has more.
Elsa's first swipe at Florida comes in the Keys.
A lot of rain, a lot of wind, shut us down for work.
On the move, the winds now intensifying to near hurricane strength. But it's the growing surf and driving rain that could do the most damage.
This is going to be a water event. There is going to be flooding. There is going to be storm surge. And that's what gives us the greatest concern.
Concern that, like the forecast path, stretches along the entire west coast of the state. Residents in the potential strike zone lining up for sandbags in a late race to get ready. Tampa International Airport suspending all operations at 5 this evening. The Rays postponing tonight's game against the Indians at Tropicana Field. And while search and recovery work does continue at the site of that tragic collapse in Surfside, crews are being forced to adjust to the changing conditions.
The wind is hampering the large cranes moving very heavy debris. That's a challenge that they're attempting to work around right now.